Everyone could please rise. I would ask our Volunteer Ambulance Corps Captain, Bill Stropa, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you could remain standing just for a few minutes as we remember those that have given their lives overseas, and also two very special people in our community, Minnie Mae Kemp and Helen Yeagle. Thank you. We're going to start with two quick presentations. The last meeting, the Eisenhower Leadership Center donated several checks to several charities here in the community, and I wanted to hold off on the two that were unable to make it at that meeting, and they are here tonight. So first, I would like to invite up Gabe O'Connell from the nursery school. And Gabe, if you would just take a second, tell us about the nursery school.
Sure. The Blanche Margolis Nursery School at Highlands has been in existence for over 30 years here in Highland Falls. My mother is the teacher and has been for a large portion of that time. Right now they operate out of Sacred Heart School. They provide early childhood education to 3- and 4-year-olds in the morning and afternoon sessions. Just gets them going and gets them kind of ready for school. There's still a lot of play and fun, but there's also some learning and a little bit of structure to get them going. And it's a great experience for kids, and it absolutely makes a difference to get them ready for kindergarten and their education start.
One of the staples in our community that, again, would set us apart from those that don't have a fantastic organization like this. And I want to thank you and give you a $200 check from the Eisenhower Leadership Center a few doors down. Thank you so much, Gabe.
Thank you.
No introduction necessary. Bill Stropel, if you would come up, I would tell you what he does, but there's too many titles, and it would take us a couple, 10, 15 minutes to get it done. He's wearing his ambulance corps gear tonight. That's what he's about. 90% of his time. Just give us a couple seconds about the ambulance corps and what's done.
28 volunteers. We do 24/7, subsidized by some paid EMTs, and we average about 700 calls a year. This year here, we got that beat as of the other day by about 180. So we're going to be close to 1,000 this year.
Bill, the ambulance corps could cost this town and village a lot more money. Bill and his people, through fundraising and through grants, has really reduced the cost of the volunteer ambulance program to this community. This is only 200 compared to the thousands and thousands that Bill and his people have brought in over the years, but we're hoping that it does help.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Also tonight, we have the Big Brothers Big Sisters coordinator with us tonight, Nancy Kozlowski, and our local coordinator as well, and they're going to be telling us a little bit about the program they have here in the village. We donate several $1,000s to the program. It's a phenomenal program, and it also not only just helps our kids, but also bridges a gap because they utilize the cadets in West Point for the program, and I will let them tell you about their program. Thank you so much.
Well, good evening. It's wonderful to be here again. I've been here through the years at different times to tell you about Big Brothers Big Sisters. But we're a mentoring program, and we're all about uplifting children now while they are young to give them the strength so they can succeed in the future. And we've been very fortunate in this community to have the relationship with West Point Military Academy. Big Brothers Big Sisters of Orange County has been affiliated with the Academy since 1978. And we've been able, through the partnership here with the village, be able to bridge the program and strengthen it through school-based mentoring. Gretchen Horns is our mentoring manager who oversees that. And she's going to tell you about some of the things that we do with the children and the cadets, and you'll see their happy pictures on the wall there.
Thanks. Yeah,
Nice laugh.
what's that?
Nice laugh.
I am Gretchen Fonts. I'm the local coordinator. I work part-time. I only work with this program, and I live in Highland Falls myself. I'm a military spouse. My husband works at West Point, and the job kind of fell in my lap, and we've been able to really cultivate it the last few years, and it's been a great success. Basically what it is we are a school-based program with also some extras for, especially, it's really for the kids. Once a month we do, the cadets, they either go to West Point and do something on West Point, whether it's go play at Arvin Gym, go to a football game, sometimes they go bowling, or sometimes we go to some other local area things, the Castle Fun Center, things like that. So that's there to supplement. But it used to be where the cadets and the kids, they always were matched with kind of randomly matched every time they got together. But over the last couple of years, we've been able to actually kind of follow more of what Big Brothers Big Sisters is and create long-standing matches. I've been with the agency for 2 years, and we started out with 5 of those. We now have 30, and 5 or 6 just graduated. So we generally average about 30 to up to about 40 is probably our max of matches. So that's 40 children the max that we're able to service in Highland Falls. We work directly with Highland Falls Intermediate School, so the children that we are able to match are grades 30 through 8th grade. Some of our matches, like I said, they've been matched already for the last 2 years, going on their 3rd year. Some of them will continue. Some of them were matched with their cadets when the cadets were plebes, and they're going to go till they graduate. So that'll be a 4-year match, which is what we strive for if possible, and it's been very successful. The kids and the parents have over the last few years definitely come up to me and said how much they appreciate it, how much they love it, just being able to obviously have a college age mentor, just giving those kids kind of that look into West Point and just college in general. Some of these kids, when you do enrollments, you ask them things about, what do you want to be, what do you want to do, and some of them that we are able to speak with, that are a little bit older, they're already a little bit disengaged, even with school, even by 4th, even 5th, 6th grade, and it really is making a big impact on these kids to see what hard work does, paying off to be in college, to be a cadet. They're wonderful mentors, and it's been a great time for me to be able to help facilitate that. Like I said, we've been working very closely with Highland Falls Intermediate. They've been wonderful there. They go, so on top of our weekend things once a month, the cadets actually go to Highland Falls Intermediate after school. There's 2 groups, so they go once a week. And they get to meet with their little, they play games, they play outside. Sometimes if one of their littles is having a little bit of trouble in school, they get to help them out a little bit. But usually it's really to facilitate a friendship, and it's been very successful the last couple of years, and we look forward to continue it more in the future.
And mentoring is a research-based program. When children are mentored, they are more likely to succeed in school, have better peer and family relationships, as well as make better choices and stay away from alcohol and drugs. So we're really a prevention-based program, and we want to make a big impact in the lives of the children while they're young. Gretchen's been able to see some real changes in the youth of your community, and I know there's a couple of matches. Even though the children are going into the 8th grade, they're actually also going to continue with the cadet in the community. The cadet is that committed to the child here in Highland Falls. And it's always wonderful when you have a higher education institution in your community, and you can make that be an asset to your community. So I absolutely love the relationship. And if I may also just compliment Trustee Jim DeSalvo. His father has been a big brother in Big Brothers Big Sisters program. His father, Mike, mentored a young man for 6 years. He works over at Orange County Trust, and they started in a school-based mentoring program with his little brother, and he was able to see his little brother graduate from high school this year. So, Well, it's just magical when you put two people together and they care and they invest in one another. We're helping kids have a better future, and I can't thank the village enough for supporting the services that we provide.
I'd like to thank Nancy and Trish for coming tonight. Just real quick, if you are looking to help and you don't think you could be a big brother or big sister, there are a lot of other ways you can help. Located at the Side Street Saloon parking lot is a donation bin for the Big Brothers Big Sisters, where clothing, items, it's all right on the bin. Also, part of our quality life program that we're moving forward with is not having furniture and whatnot sitting on the sidewalk waiting for someone to pick it up or whatnot. They also have a donation center, and they will come and pick it up. And that information will be available at the Village Hall for those people looking. And there are the donation pamphlets right here. So if you want to get involved, if you want to be a part of this great program, don't sit back, get involved. It's very rewarding. Thank you so much.
The nice thing is we'll pick it up right at your front door. Thank you. On with your village business.
At this time, I'd like to invite up Brad Palmer. He is going to save us a lot of money and help us out with hopefully a better insurance program for all our village employees.
Oh,
That's okay.
I'm
That's all
sorry.
right. Nobody knows.
I had no idea.
That's all right.
Back in?
Nope, too late.
Thank you for the invite.
Brad, I know you want to talk to us, but be loud to the camera, we'll hear you. Because that way it also helps the community.
Oh, great.
Best spot to stay.
Right by the flag.
All right. Good evening. Thanks again for the invite for coming out. My name is Brad Palmer. I'm with Marshall and Sterling. And what I want to present tonight is an alternative to the correct Blue Cross night shift plan for the village employees. What I'm presenting is the same plan that is currently in place now over at the town. So this is exactly the same plan. What it is that we're presenting is a high deductible plan. And so when you first hear high deductible, you get that kind of deer in the headlights kind of look. Why would anybody want to switch from a plan that has copays to a plan that has a high deductible plan? The high deductible portion of the plan is only half of the equation. The other half of the equation is to set up a fund of money. That fund of money is called an HRA, or Health Reimbursement Arrangement. Okay? It's basically a fund that the village would put money into to offset the entire deductible. So at the end of the day, if you have a plan, and in this packet here, if you look on the right-hand side, it compares your current night shift program with the CDPHP plan. The deductible is $2,700 for a single and $5,400 for a family, but after that, it's 100% covered. So the whole principle behind this is that the village would fund the $2,700 for an individual and $5,400 for a family. And even doing that, it still saves the village a tremendous amount of money and gives the employees virtually 100% covered. I know that a lot of the union contracts specify that the coverage has to be equal to or better, and we can dive into that a bit more. But with Marshall Sterling, we've probably had about 80 towns and villages, so this is nothing new to us. We've been doing this for quite some time. So at the end of the day, really the only out-of-pocket cost to the employee is just going to be copays on prescriptions. And they have that right now with the current plan. In fact, there's copays right now with the current plan for doctor's visits, lab, imaging, hospital. There's hospital deductible. There's copays for prescriptions. Pretty much all the costs go away except for copays on prescriptions, and that's it. And even then, your exposure on copays on prescriptions is capped at $1,000 for a single, $1,000 for a family, and that's it. And that's after the deductible. So, looking through this sheet here, if you want to look on the right-hand side and go down to the cost area, the actual premium for this particular program, the bottom right-hand corner, it's $368.27 for a single, $957 for a family. That's just the insurance premium. Now, if we factor in that the village would fund 100% of the deductible, the rate's $593 for a single and $1407 for a family. And if you compare that to the night shift rates, it's a significant cost savings. That's including funding 100% of the deductible. Okay? Now, it gets, from the village perspective, it gets better than, if you flip to the second page, and let's kind of work from left to right on this sheet here. There's 9 singles and 24 families currently in the program. If you were to stay with CDPH or go with CDPHP, the premium would be $315,000 and change. The actual funding would be $153,900, or combined $469,000 for the year for the insurance. Currently, we're paying $568,000. So in a worst case scenario, if everybody used all the money to offset those deductibles, you'd still save $99,240. That's guaranteed savings. But we know that not everybody's going to use all the money to offset the deductible. Some people are going to go through all the money. Some are going to go through half of the money. Okay, we count. Some people may not use it at all. Okay, it tends to follow this probability curve, where it's around 65 towns and villages end up being around 65 to 75% utilization. So, assuming 75% of the money is funded, you'll then just save $137,000. If it ends up being 65% utilization, it can go upwards of $153,000. So there's no question when you crunch the numbers, it certainly makes sense. And we have a lot of other towns and villages that have been doing this for quite some time. That works well. Let's talk for a moment about CDPHP, Capital District Physicians Health Plan. They've been in operation since approximately 1980. For the last 4 years, they've been ranked #1 in customer service in New York State, so they have a good reputation. They do a great job. In this area, as far as the network goes, I want to say they probably have about 98% of the doctors. In addition to the Hudson Valley and Orange County, they also are contracted with 2 additional networks. One is called MagnaCare, so if you're in New York City, Long Island, and New Jersey, it's the MagnaCare network. If you're in the rest of the United States, Boston, Florida, California, it's the First Health Network. Okay, so you really truly have a national network with over 675,000 doctors across the country. All right, so it's not just a local network. Now locally they have Horizon, Crystal Run, pretty much most all your mom and pops. I know that I think Greater Hudson Valley family opened up in town. They're actually clients of mine, and they also take this insurance. So I think from a network standpoint, there's really no issue. But before we ever got to a point where you can make a decision, we would do all the due diligence to make sure people's doctors participated, not only locally but nationally. If somebody's using doctors in New York City and Boston and so on. Any questions so far?
Just one.
Sure.
If you're traveling on vacation
Yep.
and you have a problem in Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
What kind of coverage do you have?
It's worldwide coverage for emergency care. So let's say you're in Mississippi, or you've got a child in college in Mississippi. Okay, if it's not an emergency situation, but they need medical care, as long as their doctor is part of that First Health Network, then it doesn't even have to be emergency. Just be routine care. They're still covered.
But emergency
It's worldwide. Yep. Okay, good question. Any other questions so far?
I have one.
Sure.
Is that $5,400 per policy, per person per year, or per entire policy?
Per year. And so
Per
what would
year.
happen is the deductible, let's say we started this plan just for argument's sake, October 1st. It would reset again next October 1st, but you would also get another $5,400 on your, what's going to happen is everybody's going to get a debit card. And the debit card is a smart card, so it only works at doctors' offices, labs, imaging facilities, hospitals. It doesn't work at the gas station or casinos, all the fun places. So there's a lot of technology built into the card. And every year that card would be refunded or reprogrammed with a new amount. Okay, so each year, the deductible for a family or a couple would go back to $5,400, and you'd have another fresh $5,400 on the card to offset that. Okay. Any other questions so far? Well, let's talk about that. Over the years, really the high deductible concept started in this area probably around 2010. It's been around for a lot longer, but it really took off in 2010. And like I said, we've got probably about 70, 80 villages that are on this concept now throughout the Hudson Valley. Most of them went to MVP in the early years, and they used a separate company called Choice to administer the fund. Okay, so if there was one area where we found some complaints by employees, is that what would happen is the employee would have to get an explanation of benefits from the insurance company, and also get a revised bill from your doctor, and then take that debit card out and settle up with the doctor. With CDPHP, they have what's called an integrated HRA, meaning they're not only handling the claims, they're also administering the fund. So it just makes it so much simpler. So basically, all you do when you go to the doctor, you just give them the medical card. Okay, the doctor bills CDPHP. CDPHP processes the claim. Okay, they still send you an explanation of benefits because you need to know how the claim was processed. But then they're going to take the money out of that fund and send it directly to the doctor, lab, imaging facility, or hospital. In fact, the card you get really is only for prescriptions. So it's eliminated 99% of the issues where people are having to take the EOBs and the bills and match them up, and the employees are pretty much been taken out of that whole situation. In fact, so it's very much like your current night shift plan, except with the night shift you're paying $20 copay for this, different copays and so on. Here, you just go to the doctor's office, you give them the medical card, and you walk out, and then they just bill CDPHP directly. So that's called the integrated HRA. So the technology is really moving forward on this. Any questions?
Oh, yeah, another one.
Oh, sure. Choose the question. Okay.
Back in the 90s, some local governments and counties self-insured. The experience wasn't completely good because if you had a high incidence of very expensive claims, it threw the whole formula out the
Right.
window. Would that be a consideration for this?
No. And I'll tell you, well, actually, your current night shift plan is also a self-funded plan currently. So but it's truly a self-insured plan where night shift is really paying the claims, okay? And I don't want to say regardless of the size of the claim, but probably if the claim gets to up to $100,000 or $150,000, then they have stop-loss insurance that picks up from here.
And it's a much larger.
And it's a much larger. But here, your exposure is $2,700 for an individual, $5,400 for a family, and we've already figured out if the worst case happened and everybody used all the money on their debit cards, all the money in the fund, it's still considerably, that's these rates on the first page, the bottom here, these are the worst case numbers. These include 100% funding. And even then, you're still, the village would save $99,000.
And it wouldn't escalate the next
It
year.
wouldn't go over that. Now, the only additional cost to the village would be, there is a cost to administering the fund. It's $3.25 per employee per month. So let's say, I guess it tells me right here, so there's 33 employees, so we'd have to figure out 33 times 3.25 per month. Okay, but it's certainly much better having CDPHP administer all those claims rather than somebody in the village trying to do that. Plus, from a HIPAA standpoint, you wouldn't want somebody within the village having private, medical information. So that would all be handled by CDPHP. But other than that, those are the entire costs.
And if we did have the worst case scenario, it wouldn't impact the cost of plans the following year?
No, because you're under 50 employees on the insurance, you're community rated. So in a sense, you are part of a large group. You're part of the community. The community would be Orange, Ulster, Dutchess, Putnam, and Sullivan counties. Those 5 counties create the community pool that you're in. So just by having large claims in your specific group would not affect the rates for everybody. It has probably a very small, infinitesimal effect, but All right. Any questions so far?
Do the employees right now contribute to their health insurance?
I don't know. I mean, that's probably a question for the.
New employees do for some for a certain amount of time.
So this would be cost-free to the employees?
No, I mean, well, if, let's say that the folks that are paying, let's say 5% now, they'd be paying 5% of a smaller amount. So there would be not only savings on the benefits, but savings on the contribution side too. That's what we found that definitely in other towns and villages. I just picked up the village of Ellenville, and they have some folks that are paying 10%, and it's a pretty significant difference. So.
I'm just thinking that could be just an additional savings if you left it where they're at right now. Or if you, set a base where employees would contribute this much, and the rest of the policy would pick up, that would, add to the bottom line of savings.
Any other questions or thoughts?
So that with 33 employees, that would, the village would have to pay out just over $177,000 a year for coverage of a family, 54.
Well, I figured out it's $153,900 is what it is for 9 singles and 24 families. So that's the worst case. And like I'm saying, even with the worst case, if everybody used the money that's basically in their account, the village still saves $99,000. But we know it's not going to happen. It never does for a group of this size. You know, some people are certainly going to go through it. Some people are going to use half of it, and some people are going to use very little of it. And generally, you know, when you look around at the employees, you know, you have younger, healthier guys, let's say, that don't really use the plan that much, and you've got some folks that use it a lot. And so it tends to, like I said, follow that probability curve where it's somewhere between 65 and 75% utilization. Now, I've got towns that are 35% utilization, but I wouldn't, you know, you can't, you know, assume that. In fact, we always assume the worst. You have to kind of budget for the worst and then hope for the best. Now, right now, you're paying $767 a month for a single for a night shift and $1,686 for a family or a husband-wife, because there is no double rate. When you send that money to night shift, if folks aren't using it, guess what? You're not getting any of it back. It's all just going right directly to night shift. So at least here, if you don't use all that money, it stays with the village and it makes the plan much more sustainable in the future. So you're building up a little bit of a war chest for the future. So you really have the benefit, in answer to your question, you have some benefits of partially self-insuring, but you don't really have the risk that you would have if you were really truly self-insuring. So, anything else in particular? Any other questions?
No?
You know, and we could probably go on and on,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's probably good for.
Well, this is going to be something that we're looking into right now, because as long as all the village employees are informed, they have all the information, they're going to make the decision with us to move over. I think this is going to be a very good thing for not only the village, but also the employees. It looks like it's going to be a better policy. We're going to take some time to look this over, and we're going to bring it back to the meeting for a vote later on in the year. I do want to thank Brad for coming down for the presentation today. I also want to thank Steve Newhouse. He was the gentleman, he talked about this with me about 8 months ago, and with Ed, and then he got it to Jimmy and worked with Brad and got it to the table, which was great. Steve actually is in Chester right now. They're using it, and they are a good prototype of how it's working and how it's benefiting their community.
And also, too, I've been working very closely with Kelly Blauvelt. I don't know if anybody knows Kelly. She's really, you know, gone above and beyond to research this, so certainly would also be a good person for the board, anybody else to ask questions. You know, she'll nail the ins and outs. Because we, you know, they did have a lot of questions, and we worked through a lot, and but I think they're actually all enrolled. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. I'm going to open up for public comment. Oh, sure. On agenda items. Any public comment on agenda items? No? We'll move into department head reports and liaison reports. We'll start with water. Okay. You go to wastewater treatment?
I can do that.
Okay.
Treated 800,000 gallons this month. Met all permit limitations. Havens Road was checked and operating properly, the pump station. 23 tons of sludge was processed. Screenings were disposed of by FAM. The project is going well down there. They installed a new fence. John Jones met a couple of people down the car wash. Anyway, it's all just maintenance stuff. This pump's working. We have no problems down there. I did meet the engineer down there, and he had some recommendations for stage 2 of the project, putting a larger panel and accommodate more pumps while he's on site, and it'd be considerable savings. The project's coming well. They're going to get a lot of, the new process is going to have a lot of methane that they can use to heat the building, perhaps, and get rid of the sludge. It's, it looks like a great system. I mean, the one we had there never really worked the way it was designed, but this one seems to be a pretty good idea and coming along pretty good. And I think that's it.
Water.
The village water department will be flushing hydrants throughout the village of Highland Falls and the town of Highlands the week of August the 25th through August the 30th, between the hours of 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. Some discoloration will occur. This will clear up in about 2 hours. Any questions or concern, please contact the water department at 845-446-3252. For water department emergencies, please call 845-446-4911. Thank you.
Fire?
Well, there are 2 items under new business for fire, but also I wanted to take a moment to publicize the carnival that begins on September 21st and runs through August 21st. Parade is in September. This week, Wednesday night, it begins. The Chief, John Rush, is in the back of the room. He's heading up this effort. It was a wonderful experience for families and children of all ages last year. Great rides, wonderful food, games. This year I know we're going to have deep fried Oreo cookies to look forward to, and some new additions. I've tasted them, they're really good. John, do you have anything else to add?
Are we going to approve the new member plan?
Yes, we're taking care of that.
Yeah. There are wristbands that you can purchase for going on all the rides.
Every night.
Good to go?
I think so.
Building department.
Yeah, we received a pretty hefty summary from the billing department. This is for the month of July 2013. 6 permit applications were received, 3 certificates of compliance / occupancy were issued, 175 physical inspections were performed, 21 of which were fire safety inspections, 61 complaints were opened, 5 of which were unregistered vehicles, 54 advisory / violation notices and notices of remedy were issued, 32 periodic inspections were opened, 12 of which were landlord registration renewals, 1 municipal search was completed, and the full report was submitted by the billing department, and I have it here, and I think, Gina, we all got a copy, right? Of the full one? Yeah.
Okay, DP, police, we'll do first. Just a small note, there was an incident this past week, an alarm went off in a local store. The police did check the location and went back to base. The owner showed up minutes later, not knowing the police had already checked the scene, and they proceeded to go inside the store themselves without the police. Okay? I'm bringing this up because whether it's a business or a home, if you have an alarm that goes off and you are not and you are going to the building, whether it's your home or a business, please do not enter the residence or business without the police. If you cannot get a hold of them, it's a couple blocks away in most directions. Okay? Very important. Do not go into the buildings without the police. In this instance, the police were there, they missed them by 1 or 2 minutes, and then they would have come right back. Please call. If you get the alarm on your phone or whatever, and you are en route to your house or business, call 4911, make sure the police are responding as well, or have already responded. This could have turned into a much worse incident, but luckily, it turned out to be nothing. But please follow the proper procedure of a break-in or a possible break-in. DPW, they got a lot going on right now, besides several projects that they're working on directly in front of the Village Hall and over in front of Sacred Heart. We have some no parking areas. The Village Highland Falls DPW will be performing road surface treatments on the streets listed below. Please bear with us until we are done with these treatments. There'll be some dust for a few days, and they apologize for inconveniences. If you have questions, you can call the DPW 446-4096. No parking on the following streets from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. Brennan's Way, Cousins Avenue, Cooks Lane, Eagle Valley Road, Liberty Street. That's for Tuesday, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. There is no parking on the same streets 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. next Monday and Tuesday. That information is located in our local paper. It will be on Channel 23, and the alerts will go out. If you can help us out with this, we can work on these roads quickly and reopen them back up. So please make sure you're not parking on those streets so we don't have to deal with the cars. We will take, there is a request here also, which we will do in new business for a bid, and we'll take care of that then. Yes.
I thought this was on the agenda later, but it is not. It's a request for approval of a new member in the fire department. He has a number of aliases on the form, but we know him as trustee James DeSalvo.
We can do that during new business.
It wasn't listed.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
We'll do, there's like five fire department things.
Okay.
We'll do them all together. Okay. Now, we're gonna be doing a monthly treasurer report so we can update the community on where we are. So right now, we'll be moving on to treasurer's report.
Thanks, Mayor and village trustees. During the work sessions, I felt it important, in speaking with the mayor, to discuss issues that are pertaining to regular business, but also our policy, and making sure that our policies are updated and the way we handle financial affairs is updated. For this month, I wanted to follow up with the discussion that I brought up last month, which was the auditors. I'd like to see if there's any board input in relation to the auditing firms, the paperwork that was provided as far as the cost structure. I do have some opinions I'd be glad to share if the board requests them. I'd like to see if we could make a decision on which auditing firm we're going to be using as soon as possible, because then they can start preparing to get ready to go. In addition to that is a GASB 45, which talks about the retiree actuarials, a very important thing that needs to be done so that villages can prepare financially to handle retirement costs and benefit costs. So that also, there are two bidders there, and I do have a preference on that. The next discussion will be about the recent ban activity. I want to update the board on the financial affairs with the bond anticipation notes that have matured, and we did get some positive results as far as our interest rates by combining a couple bond anticipation notes and getting about a 30 basis point reduction, and I'll explain that right away. The next point I'd like to discuss is about transferring between funds. This is a transparency issue. The state wants villages, towns, cities to be extremely transparent on the movement of funds from the budget. Now, traditionally, towns, villages, village boards can decide to make a threshold, or they can make no threshold and make it zero. So if you transfer between funds, it has to be a board action. It doesn't have to be a resolution, it can be a simple motion, but it's in front of the board members that can make that conscious decision and ask questions instead of it just happening. And then maybe at the end of the year, something comes up about, well, why are we taking money out of this fund versus that fund? So I do want to put that out to the board for discussion. And then finally, I'd like to discuss the village policy, if there is one, and we might need to establish one, related to document retention and destruction of documents. There is some general state guidance on the duration that documents have to be held onto. But there are some specific foolproof things that I would recommend the board does to make sure that the custody and the proper documentation and everything happens as far as document destruction. So I'd like to get input from the board on that important topic also. So I'd like to first start with the auditors. Does the board have any questions or any comments about the memo that was put together on July 29th, updating the costs of the audit services? I can give a quick rundown if, okay. The audit services are, 3 firms came forward. The current firm with the village, Nugent and Hausler, Cooper Arias, which is a relatively smaller firm that's out on the western side of New York. Delaware River area, Mongat Valley is where they're located. And then Vanacore de Benedictus, they've got several other names, but we'll stick with Vanacore. They are well established in the area also. They're currently the town's auditors. They were brought in a couple of years ago in response to the issues of the town's audits and so on, and the lack of filings. So the numbers are pretty close. What's very good about this is there's a very good competition here as far as services. These firms want our business. It's very reliable business, and a lot of times once you get into these municipalities, if they do a good job, they tend to retain their business. So right now, we're looking at Nugent and Hausler at $20,250 for year 1, $21,000 year 2, $21,750 year 3. In that figure, they're including the Section 8 audit, which is a federal required audit. So that is that's valuable because the other bids had an add-on to that. Okay. Cooper Arias came in as a low bidder for services, which was $19,000, $19,000, and $19,500. But their single audit charge was $2,500. So essentially, they're at about $21,500. Vanacore came in at $20,500, and that's per year. That doesn't change as far. I did speak with their representative, and that would be the 3-year number. And then the single audit requirement for Section 8 would be $3,000 add-on. Now, I did, through my conversations and the mayor's conversations and so on, there is still a little bit of room in negotiating here. And that's great because anything below $26,000 means that we have a balance, a positive balance in that line item on the budget. So I wanted to just get, is there any board preference here? Is there any direction, or what kind of guidance would you like to offer as far as moving forward with this? Mr. Mayor, is
I'd like to put it on the next agenda and make sure that the board has all the needed information, because the company is going to need that time so they can prepare properly to do the audit in a timely fashion.
Right.
The only thing I would like to say is, by going out to bid, talking to several of the auditors, we were able to get a more competitive bid and save the village money, which I'm very happy with. The 2 firms that I'm looking at are very well established, and I think either one we're going to do very well in the village.
So if I could ask, and if the board members wouldn't mind, if they do have a specific position on one or another, if you could just email me with your thoughts, I'll factor that in. I have experience with both firms. I have more experience with Vanacore, because obviously in the town, Vanacore was heavily involved in the town auditing, and they currently are. But Nugent and Hausler is very well regarded also, and that is currently the village's auditing firm. So any inputs would be great. And then, Mayor, if you have this on next agenda for a decision, that would be great in time. Okay.
So if you do have any questions, also not just your comments as far as your thoughts on which firm to go with, but any questions, please try to get to Ed as soon as possible so we can get those answered and you're ready for the decision.
Great, thank you. As far as actuarial services, the money, the dollar proposals is quite stark between the 2 firms. Danziger and Markoff are very well known. My recommendation is to go with Danziger and Markoff for those services. Aquarius Companies came in at $4,500, which was about $1,700 higher, which is significant. This service is pretty standard stuff. So I don't think we're going to get much one way or another. I think really it's a dollars issue, and it's pretty obvious that Danziger is very competitive in their number. So I would recommend Danziger. If there are any other thoughts from the board, please let me know. Okay, recent ban activity. We had some bond anticipation notes mature in relation to the wastewater treatment projects and in relation to the water tanks, or the painting of the water tanks. We took an opportunity here because we had a couple bond anticipation notes maturing from two different banking organizations. We had an opportunity to combine two of them, and by doing that, and then there was $50,000 for the painting of the water tanks that was set aside in the budget to pay off principal, so that was included, and then we went and put out a $500,000 note for a reissuance of a bond anticipation note, and very, very positively, we were able to get about a 30 basis point lowering of the rate for one of the institutions. So by combining those two bond anticipation notes into this $500,000 note, we're essentially over the year going to save about $1,500 in interest payments that essentially then can go toward other uses. For a year, $1,500 in any budget, you know, you'll always take it. And by being a little bit creative as far as trying to go with one institution versus another and get that favorable financing, we're able to do a little bit better on our interest requirements and how much we have to pay. So those two, that ban for $500,000 was issued in the beginning of August at a rate of 1.69. Earlier proposal was at 1.98. And the wastewater treatment note had a $60,000 principal paid off through the budget, and now it's been reissued at $120,000 at 1.98%. Again, being a lower number, the bank that Chase Bank, which bid on the $500,000 note, wasn't interested in the lower dollar value. So we are at a similar rate with Orange County Trust on the $120,000 note. So that's nice, and we're going to continue to do that to try to find opportunities to trim off some interest costs, to have less of that money being used to pay off debt and maybe more for services, and obviously that I know is the board's goal.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Or do you want to just?
Go ahead.
We normally do bans and with Orange County Trust anyway, right?
Yes, it looks like in the history, Orange County Trust has been used, Chase has been used, First Niagara has been reached out to. They tend to not want to bid on it. And I think that that's an important discussion we're going to have with First Niagara, because they have quite a bunch of our banking services. We want them to also be interested in our debt. And if they're not, then we have to consider whether or not that's the best banking relationship, because you got to share the wealth. Chase has been very good. Orange County Trust has been very good at being interested in bidding on the debt, and certainly the more the merrier as far as potential opportunities for better interest rates. Okay. Next item is transferring between funds. One of the things that I've noticed, and again, this isn't a right or wrong, this is really just a procedural thing that I think the board really has to give guidance on, and that is that as you get toward the end of the year and you end up having some shortfalls in some funds, some of it's unexpected, some of it's maybe an error in the budget calculation, whatever, you end up having to transfer between funds to fill that gap. What I think is very important and what is common is that boards either look at all transfers and approve them, or they set a threshold, and that threshold will determine whether or not the board has to make an action on a transfer request. So, case in point, if we're looking to move money from one A fund account to another to take care of a negative balance, it appears that unless it was a large number, that typically was done. Okay. My personal comfortability level from the transparency perspective is that there should be a threshold that is tangible enough that the public gets to observe and the board gets to observe financial transactions that, let's say, are happening after the budget's been done, but might actually have a material, board member might have a material interest in it. And it might be a fund that they thought was well capitalized, and now it's not, and they might want to know why. And maybe a member of the public might want to know why. So my recommendation is that the board discuss and determine whether or not a threshold is required. If there is one, what threshold would be reasonable to the board to weigh in. Now, myself and Anna Sierra have developed a form for transfers, and it's a very simple form. It's going to basically have the fund number, the amount, the fund number, and the amount from to. And then if there's any amplifying information, there'll be little comments under it. And then if the board has any further analysis that they want to do, this will pique their interest, and then there can be follow-up. I don't think you have to do it for every single one. If it's, $50 for some reason, I'm not sure the board's time is being valuably spent on something like that. But 500, 700, that type of number, I would recommend maybe the board consider at least seeing it and eyeballing it, so that you have an understanding that there is money flowing between funds that are outside what the original budget plan was. So any thoughts on that? Anything disagreement or agreement with that recommendation?
When you say threshold, percentage-wise, you have a dollar amount that,
Yeah. 250 would be allowed.
Yeah, is that, so basically, if it's $20,000 in the fund, if it's over 10% of that budget, that's the threshold we're talking about?
I think it's really the board's decision. Traditionally, it's been a dollar amount out of the fund. So if you're looking to transfer it within the A fund from one, treasurer to, some other fund, and you want to set it at $700, anything below $700, it gets done. Anything above $700, it comes on a sheet, a simple sheet that says, look, we're looking to transfer from here to here. We just want to make sure you're aware of it and you're okay with it. And then that just gives the board more financial recognition as to what's going on in the budget throughout the year, instead of when budget time comes around and then we're talking about why we're short or we're over in one fund or the other. So
Do you have a recommendation for?
I would say $500 to start would be a good number. It is completely changeable. If we find that we're having way too many transactions and the board really doesn't feel like they need to have that amount of scrutiny, we could increase it. But I think from the outset, it's really a good way to do it, so that the flow of dollars out of the village coffers are seen by all board members and the public.
And $500 is a significant amount.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Why so high?
Well, because
Right.
typically when you're going to make transfers, you're going to transfer because there was really a major deficit somewhere. You normally, most of the funds shouldn't be getting to a point where you're needing $250, $300 on a regular basis. If that's happening, then budgeting needs to be done better, So, because you have to weigh the time it takes to evaluate, which obviously this board's time, along with everybody else's time, is very valuable. It's kind of the diminishing returns idea. So if you have a basic structure that says, okay, everything over $500 transferred between funds, at least you and the public and the board know that they're going to be reviewed. 95% will probably be approved. But there might be a couple that pique the interest and go, wait a second, I remember something about that, and why are we doing this? And then maybe more information comes out, and then better decisions get made out of it. So that's kind of why you want to set that type of threshold. Okay?
Just want to
So,
make sure put that on the next agenda.
okay, so again, I'll put down 500. I certainly would like any input on that from any board members.
Do we have a policy about transfers or loans from, say, the water fund into the general fund?
There is state policy. I have not cited anything that the village has specifically. I think that's something that is going to have to be determined. This is why I'm going through some of this, because we really do need to do a full policy analysis. I don't want to paralyze everybody with policy, but we certainly structurally want to make sure that we have some good ground rules. And the state does have, a lot of the Office of State Comptroller guidance is there. It's just that sometimes local boards might want to even make it even tighter. for whatever their reasons, transparency, more analysis, and so on. So a lot of this stuff is out there, like even when I'm going to talk about the retention, there is rules about retention, but it's the actual process that local boards need to make sure that they have down, just to cover themselves. Okay? All right, so again, any feedback on the transfer between fund threshold would be appreciated. Finally, and this has to do with towns, villages, cities, everything, and that is documents. Over time, a lot of documents become gained, and you know, they mention about a paperless society. Forget it. We don't have a paperless society. I think almost we have more paper than we did before, for whatever reason. But this paper accumulates and starts filling up rooms, and so the state gives a lot of guidance as far as how long you have to keep specific records. What I don't have a good handle on, and I'm hoping maybe if any board members have anything or any recollection, is there a local policy on how to handle the destruction of documents that are now considered no longer to need to be retained? And that goes from the origination, the witness, the actual process of shredding and destroying documents. I think that's an important thing for the village board to consider, because there are a lot of records that come up, and I just think that a good review of that would come in hand, especially from the transparency perspective.
I think, I understand why you're bringing that up. I think that we do have a good handle on it. And this is something where definitely, we're gonna do a couple of emails, and if there needs to be action, we'll take care of it at the next meeting. But, I'm pretty sure that we're pretty much on. Again, we're gonna take, a page from the state and what they've already given down to us. But exactly what he had said before, tightening up. What we need to do is see what the state's policy is, and the board needs to weigh in on whether they're comfortable with state guidelines, or do we need to take it a step further. That's mainly what I believe Ed was looking for.
Yeah.
Do we want to go a little further in our policies and procedures locally?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my experience with the handling of documents and destruction of documents is a very tight, hands-on accountability experience. And I want to just make sure that the board agrees with that and they're comfortable with that. If not, I'd like to have the guidance of what the board wants and how to handle documents when we need to destroy them because they're no longer relevant.
Well, I
Trustee
mean,
Sella?
just a question, the village clerk would be in charge of record keeping and
Correct.
the destruction of records, so she would be following anything from the Office of the State Controller, which the state already mandates certain requirements. Just like in banking, we don't set up our own guidelines of when to destroy records or account receipts or anything like that. It's all in a schedule.
But the state's guidelines are broad.
Yeah, but
And
the state guidelines are the requirements.
I know, but what I'm saying is there's the requirements and then there is the local authority. And it's been my experience, and again, I'm just offering my experience, the handling of records and the destruction of records is a extremely sensitive issue. And a lot of my experience has been that there's a chain of custody that's very, very transparent and very clear. And I just want to make sure that the board's comfortable with that. If they're not, then we can stay with the complete broad state guidelines. I'm not necessarily, this is mainly a question, not a judgment.
What we'll do is we'll put out the policy to the board, email the policy, we can look it over. If there are recommendations to tightening up the policy, we'll move on those recommendations. If not, we'll just make the policy known so that people understand why things are being done, and this is why this was done.
Absolutely, because as you know, financial records come up and they need to be destroyed. I have a certain comfortability level from my experience dealing with documents. I just want to make sure that what we're doing here in the village is what the board wants done. So I have good guidance on how we're going to handle it so that I can work with the village clerk on handling that. Okay? Yes?
One additional thing that I would like to see the village undertake, and it would probably go through your offices,
Sure.
a real capital funding plan that looks at the long-term needs over the next 5 years and begins to budget accordingly so we can afford things over time instead of getting hit.
Trustee Murphy, are you mainly referring to like infrastructure items and so on? Vehicles, okay.
Any major purchase.
Okay, I will state that I've had several discussions about reserve funds because the issue of reserve funds seems to be very confusing for a lot of people that are either departments heads in the village and so on. I believe that there is very good guidance on establishing of reserve funds. I'll say the town does a pretty good job with it from my experience with the town. The thing about establishing reserve funds is it helps in that capital planning because you can, with a vehicle, you can say, okay, the 5-year life, 10-year life, whatever the life of that vehicle is, and then what the costs are, and then set a reserve fund specifically for that purpose.
We currently have that. We have it in the water fund, the sewer fund, and we have it in the general fund. There were accounts for vehicles of that nature to buy, like pickup trucks,
Is
or,
it department by department?
yes, we would put $5,000 to $10,000 away per budget, and that's why we were able to buy a truck down at DPW and not have to borrow for it, as was done previous before. There was money put away each year.
The concept that Trustee DeSalle was talking about is correct. The vehicle being used is questionable. And my question here is that traditionally, reserve funds that are established are created by the board, ratified by the board, and the only way that they can be spent is for the purposes of that reserve fund and a board action. It appears, and again, I didn't have the luxury of having a great opportunity to speak with the former treasurer to understand some of his thought process, but it appears that there were efforts made to put aside money in the budget for certain items, but they weren't traditionally done the way reserve funds are done. They were done in allocating on a budget line item reserves for X, and then they were carried over in fund balances or whatever. My recommendation is that unless the board feels constricted to have specific reserve funds for specific purposes, my recommendation would be to establish these reserve funds and then put them into accounts that are specifically held year after year for that purpose. And then when the board decides to release them, they come out of those specific accounts that build up over years, and then they get used like the town did with an ambulance a couple years ago. That account built up, it was a specific account for the ambulance. It was put in a bank that was New York class accounts, which is something that is observed and audited by the state of New York. And those accounts are completely controlled by that entity and by the boards themselves in making the decisions when to spend it. There are very specific rules there. And I believe that might be something the board might want to consider in future reserve fund activity.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Moving into the mayor report. Again, there will be a lot of road work going on this week and next week, both in Highland Falls and Fort Montgomery. Please make note, the information is available on Channel 23 in the paper, and the alerts will go out. But not just here, it's also happening in Fort Montgomery, so please keep an eye. I'd like to congratulate Rite Aid with our manager David Faber. They had their grand reopening this past weekend. It was an excellent event, as well as the Greater Hudson Valley Family Health Center. One of our locals there, Brandy Miles, was at the reception. Another fantastic event. We had some local dignitaries that stopped by, as well as our Representative Maloney that not only stopped by the grand opening, but then came into the village, met with business owners, met with people walking down the street to take concerns, answer some questions, and that was also a very good time that we had. And he will be coming back for a meeting as a follow-up to discussions that we had this past weekend. Just a few things in the news. Puzzle Fun at the library with Gary Cecil on August 20th. Magic Jim Vegas on August 25th at the library for the reading program. Harriet Tubman, local historic society, sponsoring a trip to the Cotton Club. Tie-dye workshop at the library on the 27th of August. The Buffalo Soldiers Luncheon on September 1st. And on the 22nd, the Fort Montgomery Fire Department Ladies Auxiliary is hosting a craft fair. The nursery school, who you saw Gabe here earlier, they will be hosting an indoor tag sale on October 5th. All these events are available in the paper. Most of them on Channel 23. I would ask residents, please utilize all the forms of communication that we have, because as I talked to one of our residents, John Willis, he is with Team RWB, standing for Red, White, and Blue. They support a veterans organization. They do a lot of runs. They had the triathlon this past weekend. Very successful. And again, another great event in our town that for those people that say, not really much going on here, there's a lot more than you know. And the library is a fantastic hub for that. A lot of these activities go on in the library. Also, the pink bracelets are out. PJ Troy, one of our village police officers, and his wife, Joni, are doing a 39.2-mile walk for the Avon Walk for breast cancer. There are donation cans available throughout the village, not just for PJs, but also 2 or 3 other people are doing the walk. They have cans out. It's a great cause. I encourage everyone to get involved. West Point held their annual Brigade Run for those people that were up early the other day. It was led by the new superintendent, General Caslin. We were at, Chief Scott and I were at the reception when the cadets marched back at General Caslin's house. Another great event. We wish General Caslin and his staff the best, and we look forward to a lot of great things happening in the coming years. Farmers Market is changing it up every week. They are doing some great things down there as well. You got to check out the paper, and whatever you do, take a couple minutes, 9, 10 o'clock to about 2-ish. There's a lot going down across from Sacred Heart and Lot 2 for the Farmers Market. I do want to thank Ed McGrada. He did follow up on the owners of the green donation bins. We have 2 of them located in the village, one at Rite Aid and one at the Hacienda. He had concerns because he saw no activity for the past couple of years. On the bins it says we donate to local charities, and we really saw no activity. So we contacted them, and they've informed us they haven't given anything since May of 2011. And when asked why, it's because nobody asked us. Oh, okay, well, now we're asking. So we're asking, and they will be coming up with at least 1,000, if not more. We're going to disperse that to our local charities and keep a closer eye on those green bins. Anyone who has information on the red bin located on Mountain Avenue outside the Verizon building, if anyone has information on that, please get to me. I'm trying to locate that contact as well, to just get the information of the donations that were made through that box from the village, so that the village knows your donations were being made.
On that note, the one that's at Side Street Saloon is 100% theirs. We have nothing to do with it.
Correct. There is a, as we stated earlier, there is one more collection bin. It's located in the parking lot of Side Street Saloon, and 100% of that goes to Big Brothers Big Sisters. They they utilize the stuff that goes through that bin a little differently than most of the other companies. They try to reuse as much of that in a thrift shop fashion, where most of the other ones are using it for a rag business. So I would suggest, again, as a quality of life issue, before you put any large items, before you put anything out on the sidewalk that you're getting rid of that's in good shape, please, the numbers are right on the bin outside Side Street. If not, contact here at the village. We can give you the number. They will pick it up right from your house. No lifting. They will get it right from you, and it will go to a great cause. And that was my next thing. And also, the planning board meeting on 8/22 has been canceled. The next planning board meeting is 9/26 at 7 p.m. We want to give you an update on the Knights of Columbus Hall. For those at the last meeting, there was some confusion. We spent a good half day confirming with the county. Talked to Mr. Mayfield as well as Joanne Fazzini that the money is still at HUD. The money is still with the federal government. Just so you have an update. That's where it is now. We have an email from Mr. Mayfield, who is in charge of the organization here in the county, saying the village has done everything they can do at this point for this project. Right now, it's between the county office and HUD. So, just so everyone's on the same page and we have the proper information, that's where we are. Phone calls were made today. There has been no change. An update on the water supply. I have an email from our attorney letting us know that a draft agreement is being put together. We called a meeting the day after our last board meeting. We met with town, we met with engineers, we met with the water department and the town highway department. We talked to Mr. Sarcone on the phone after we had had our discussion. The draft that's being put together right now that we are going to be looking for as soon as possible, and we will vote on as soon as possible. It expressly states that the town is responsible to construct and pay for a water tank if required, and all other infrastructure improvements in the water district. It also includes, it addresses the payment for a bog meadow study, meter pits, and chlorination. These were key pieces that were asked for, and because we did not have all the information at the last meeting, and we were not prepared to vote on that, these concessions that were given to us will be over $100,000 for the village and town. This will be over a little over $100,000 in services that we are going to get no taxpayer dollars. That would not have happened if we had just, let's give them the water. We would have given them the water if we had the information. We did not. This board made several calls that day. We made several calls throughout the week, as well as on Friday. We are leading the way for this through all the groups involved, bottom line. We are pushing to get the water to Fort Montgomery. The first stage will be 25,000 gallons if this is written up and the board approves it. Then there will be a period where we look at their use, and then down the road an additional 25. That's what was asked for by the project manager for the town for the water district. So we're working on his recommendation, what the water district was looking for, and what we were able to accommodate. So right now, as I said, the day after the last meeting, when we asked for more information, we met with everyone, took care of our business, and now it's been in the hands of the other attorneys to write everything up and get it done. We are waiting on that. As soon as that's done, this board will meet, and I would ask, because of the time issue, that we will be calling everyone as soon as something does come through for an emergency meeting, because they are on a time issue. As soon as it comes through, and we know that we're covered, that will be dealt with. Any questions on that?
Are you asking the public on the question?
No, that's just board. We'll take questions during any open, during public comment. Okay. Moving on to old business. Treasurer, NICOM training, September 11th, 12th. Not to exceed $700. After the last meeting, when it was looked at, they weren't really sure where that number came from. Ed went back, looked at what training is going on, what's most important. Instead of a 4-day training, he's going to go 2 days. He's only going to stay one night to cut down the cost immensely. So what he is looking for is approval by the board to register for the NICOM treasurer training on September 11th and 12th. Questions on that? No questions.
Where's the money coming from?
The treasurer's
Treasurer's contractual.
treasurer's account.
Yeah, but where? See,
Ed,
What?
where's the money coming from?
Treasurer's contractual.
Treasurer's contractual.
That's where it normally would come out of.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to send our treasurer to the NICOM training on September 11th and 12th, to register and stay, not to exceed $700?
Well, since I caused the problem at the last meeting, I will make the motion.
Don't be like that. I have a motion, do I have a second?
You have a second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
3 ayes, 2 nays. You good? Motion passes. Okay. Old business, report on Mr. Zizzi's request to extend the road. Mr. Mallon.
Yes, you wanna?
I do have a memo from our engineer. After review of the ZZ property on Sweezy Avenue, the review of the building file, it appears the current curb cut for the property was made illegally and will require a curb cut application. The steepness of the grade of Sweezy Avenue in that location is also of concern. Mr. ZZ sent a few options for getting the driveway into his property that I have reviewed. The options only consider the addition of a roadway to the curb cut of the property and didn't adequately address the steepness and the slope. Turnaround area for a car that enters the driveway, sidewalk access, and stormwater that is conveyed down Sweezy Avenue. All of the items will have to be addressed if Mr. ZZ decides that he wants to move toward a curb cut application. This is what Todd had sent us when we asked, we need something in writing, so that we just can't say yes, no, whatever. That's something that it's key to us. The reason I read that and just didn't say it's a no is because I don't believe it's ever a no. Things can change next week, things can change next month. We don't know what's coming down the road. We don't know what kind of grants are available. That road might become available as part of a grant. I would love to see it. But we have to stand by the engineer who knows what the cost is.
I would like to address that if you need. I don't know, I know quite a few of you did go up there and take a look at the road and the properties. And the driveway. The driveway didn't, there is no curb cut. The driveway was pre-existing. As a matter of fact, anyone that went up there, if you look at these pictures, right now you'll see a berm at the end of the road. Because I built it. Before that, if you look at these pictures, there was all kinds of ruts in the road from the water going downhill. Now, you see all these rocks along there. If you go up there now, there's a nice berm and a ditch dug on the other side. Well, I did that. I've been going in there and cleaning it out. I've taken probably 2 truckloads of garbage that when the season comes, you start seeing milk cartons and garbage over there. And I kept taking it out and taking it in. As you go in, you'll find a curtain rod, and you'll find a curtain at the end of the rod. You'll find it's just people dumping stuff. So I've been cleaning it up. Now, in talking with the engineer, you can see the road and how the macadam is as it's going down the road. It is in need of repair. Nonetheless, as far as safety, if you look at this picture of this road, this is not all the roads adjacent to it. If you go over to Cousins Road, if you go over to what is the road prior after that road going that way? Yeah, it's real steep. These roads are 50% more of a pitch and they have a paved sidewalk. So this pitch that's there is, in talking with the engineer, Todd had told me that the first 20 feet, he said, would be no problem whatsoever. Because after that, and which is right at the edge of my driveway, the first 20 feet is the same grade as what's there right now, if you look at the road. As a matter of fact, where the road is not paved, to the opposite side of across the street from my house, the grade is higher than the end of the road. So it isn't an issue, you know, and I told him, look, I'll build a wall at my house and have dirt going towards that area, then just to fill in that area, which is no more of a pitch than what it is right now. Now, I went and upon discussing, this is where you're talking about a curb cut. There was no wall there, there was hedges, which I can go there right now and dig up that dirt and show you where the hedges were. Now, when I did my investigation and did a title search prior to having a title company do it, I had talked to the officials, which I had indicated last time. And I met out there prior to buying it, but of course, I talked to John Hager today. I can't have anyone that wants to buy a piece of property is interested in buying. I can't have the building inspector and the mayor and everyone going out there when you don't even own the property, you know? I mean, they would be spending all their time being a realtor. But I talked to them, they helped me as best they can, and I did bring up these issues. In doing so, after that, I met out there with Pat Patterson and the former mayor, Joe D'Onofrio, and we discussed it. And one of the issues that was there was, this was a suggestion by Pat Patterson while we were there, to put it in the driveway, to swing it in that way. Now, I know, Pat, I have no problem with Pat. Pat is my neighbor. He's 2 doors down from me. We've been friends and neighbors for over a decade. So there's no issue there. But I know his load is, he has a lot on his plate. He does a lot with a little bit as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he's a perfect man for the job. I mean, I commended a former supervisor, Gary Boyce, on you know, recommending him to be in that position. But this is not a pitch, whereas that, you know, there's a safety concern compared to all the other roads as the, I don't know if you can see that through on the camera. But it's less than any other road adjacent to this road. Now, on top of which, in talking to him, you can see the grade. The grade is higher than the actual road. You know, the actual road that's there. So he said the first 20 feet wouldn't be a problem. I mean, I'd be happy, right at this point in time, to just get that 20 feet in front of my house. So if I need an ambulance or a fire truck or something there, let alone, he said, well, there's a possibility if we extended 20 feet, we could put a designated parking spot over there for you, and you would have to still move while snow removal. I said, that would be fine. At least I could get to my house, and these fire trucks or any emergency vehicles, as well as this, I had talked to Bob earlier today, and he was concerned about the sidewalk. But that sidewalk, I mean, that much more of a pitch. We have sidewalks all over that are, you know, 50% more of a pitch there. So, I mean, I would work with the village, and as I said, I'll build a wall on that side if need be. I'll put dirt to run down that way. The village engineer indicated to me that first 20 feet, which ends at my driveway, at the beginning of my driveway, wouldn't be an issue whatsoever. So this is what he has told me. That's what he indicated to me. So I don't know there's no curb to cut. There's a pre-existing road there. I have the assessment here that shows that in the title search, it shows road, it shows driveway improved. I mean, you know, this is a copy of the assessment prior to, and my lawyer has it too, prior to me buying the property. So I don't see, I'm getting mixed reviews when I talk to people and information.
Well, the curb cut thing is strictly nothing more than to mention that it wasn't a driveway, because there was no curb cuts in the concrete curb ever. So that's what he was saying.
Oh, I understand that, but I mean, this house was built before this village was even incorporated, it's 115 years old. And since then, evidently the village, which prior to, I mean, when I first moved here, the assessment was with the village. And then it was taken over by the town, I think 10, 11, almost 12 years ago. Right, yeah, and, yeah, so this was a driveway, according to the village, before it was even according to the town,
You mean a road or
a driveway.
your,
My driveway was, it says it right in the assessment, yeah, was a driveway. It was, wasn't, there is no curb there. So I understand the legal ramifications of what's required by the building department. I mean, I've been working with the building department. Actually, John Hager's the one for a year prior to my buying it, encouraged me to invest in the town and buy this house. And it took a year of negotiations, whether I was going to, and research before I went and purchased it. And, you know, I was hoping that the village would be able to accommodate.
Pat, would it be worth the board meeting up there with Todd and Pat, just all together, so we can all talk?
I've gone up, I know Bob's going up, I know Charlie's going up, Mr. Brown, you've been up. I've been in constant contact with Todd. This is his, at this time, this is his report, what he's given us. So, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Zizi, but I'm not an engineer or a builder. What I am going to do is rely on the engineer that we have and his assessment, which a big part of that is a safety issue for that area. And that's what I said. I don't want to consider it a dead issue, but at this time, the engineer is saying that we should not pursue it. That's what he says here.
Well, maybe that's what he says there, but I don't know why. I don't know, he had told me that there wasn't a problem with going 20 feet. And he's the one that recommended that.
I understand. I can give you a copy of this so you see it. This was given to us today, and it was discussed in the last week or so. And we asked for something in writing, so you could also have something from him if you need it. So that, again, I would love to finish it, get it done nice, pull
Well,
it
you
in.
know, you said it earlier, you said that road should have been done there a long time ago.
And I would love that. But as our engineer stated, it's not possible at this particular
the
time.
highway superintendent mentioned.
And the highway
We're
superintendent,
talking about Pat Patterson.
Pat Patterson,
Yeah.
agreed with Todd.
What I understand from that, in talking to Pat Patterson and Todd, was an issue of maintaining the snow. When you go to the end of that area. But the 20 feet, maybe to my driveway, which starts dipping down a little bit more, the 20 feet would not be any more of an issue than what it is right now, because it is the same slope. So I can't see where it's at. That would be a safety issue. Let alone, also, I talked to my neighbors because at the last meeting that I had, or prior, back in, well, it was in April when I issued these, April 24th. I approached the board on the day that the budget meeting. So I submitted these to the mayor to you a week before, and then at the budget meeting, we discussed it. And I had discussed it with Pat about the snow, and one of the issues that was brought up was, what would the neighbors think if we were extending the road just for you? Well, recently I went around and asked my neighbors, because you know, every time I turn around, it seems like I'm getting thrown under the bus or something, because it's either it was a horse trail, and it's a paper road, and you need a curb cut, there's no curb, it was always a driveway. It just seems like one issue after another. And I'll accommodate and I'll do whatever's necessary, whatever is required, respectfully. But my neighbors are starting to complain where they're saying there's a water issue, as you can see. I keep putting rocks out there, and the water during the winter and during the high water season, it starts eroding the ground on the right. And it drops down a good 6 or so inches. So the first time I started filling that up, Pat chuckled. He's a friend. And he said, it's just going to wash away. And he was right. It kept washing away. And I kept putting rocks and boulders and filling it so it wouldn't wash away. Just like the picture you see. You go up there now, you see a nice berm. Well, eventually that's going to wash away. because all the water goes towards there. And now if you look further down where I have the rocks, you'll see where the gullies are, and it gets about so deep. So if someone, especially an older person, and it's dark out, or even during the day, you step off that curb, you're gonna break your ankle or something, because it's dangerous. As you get further down, all of a sudden you see that start filling up. But then all the water runs onto the sidewalk, which is during the winter, it's all gonna be frozen. The water should, I mean, in my opinion, or anyone, I think common sense would say, the water should be going to the other side of the street. It shouldn't be going onto the sidewalk. Well, and doing something, right now, everything that I'm doing is filling up that gully at the bottom. So now you'll see that the erosion is building up, and I'm trying to maintain it. But there's only so much I can do. But the road itself is not a straight road, even a dead end. When you get to the end, most roads have a crown in them. That's how it's designed. Right now, it goes like this.
What we
So
need to
it's
do,
another issue that needs to be addressed at the end of this road.
what we ought, it's not just a feasibility issue, it's a money issue. Right now, all money that we have allocated for roads or any type of this has been allocated, and we are still years behind on roads that were scheduled to be done years ago. That is also a huge issue that we're dealing with. That's why, you know, as we said in the report about the closures, we're talking about Cousins Avenue, right, 5 or 6 other streets, large streets that are in disrepair and need the attention now. The money that we have allocated is going to those. So without a grant or some extra something, it's not even, we can't even consider it because the money's not in the budget, and it's not a $20 fix. And our engineer said that. It's not gonna be a cheap fix. And so there are several different factors. It's the money factor, it's the feasibility. Our engineer says it's not a good idea. And it's a safety factor as far as moving the barricade down. That was another thing they brought up with the slope. So that's why something this year, there's definitely nothing that we can done this year because of the money. And that's the answer that we got back after we investigated. It's just not there. I checked with Pat, was there anything? He goes, we're behind. He's not gonna be able to do the roads he anticipated doing this year because the money's not there. And the cost of doing the road. So he's actually been moving forward, doing more than he has been because of the way he's going about it, but we're still behind. So this is something that's gonna have to be looked at a different budget year.
Well, I understand that. Last year, I was told that. That's why I was trying to get in there, and I know you're the new mayor, but I met out there with Pat, and so even if it's next year, I'm a patient man, I'd like to be able to get in front of my house and extend it. Now, I know this year, I don't know how much CHIPS was granted, was it $64,000 extra dollars, or?
Something like that.
Yeah, from the state, for specifically roads.
Right.
Or something like an issue like this. So, but.
No, not for this. It was something, a specific issue of existing roads that are way behind, which we have a lot of. And I have no problem keeping this on the table, Mrs. G, at all. But know that we are years behind in roads, Mearns, Oak, around Roe Park, a ton of different roads that we're years behind in fixing. Not just, as you saw, you have the same problem, not just the actual road itself, but the drainage and other issues. Now, what does have to happen immediately is I will ask Pat to go up there and take a look at your drainage issue, because that is going to be a problem, and that's something we might be able to fix for now, but not reconstructing that piece of the road. It's just not, the money's not there.
Well, just knowing that it's approved to be done when the money is there is essential to me. I mean, that's a lot in itself, because, you know, I had major investment in here, and you know, I had the impression that I would be able to get access to that.
I don't know if that's what he just said, I didn't hear that.
I did.
That he plans on fixing the road when the money becomes available. I think it's a safety issue. Yeah. I don't think that the engineer and the department of the supervisor, the DPW supervisor, both have serious concerns with the safety of moving those barricades back. Period.
Because,
Because it's unsafe, because they move it back, the plowing the snow, you can't get the trucks, they push the snow against there, and they can't get the trucks out of there.
well, that's one of the issues that my neighbors I brought to my attention, I didn't know. Because they piled the snow instead, I had the impression they took the snow and they put it over the barricade.
Well, I
So
don't
you
know-
had the end of the street.
I don't know if they do or they don't, but those barricades are there to prevent the truck from winding up on Liberty.
Oh, I understand that, and that's
Or
what, there should
not-
be a
not
guardrail
in
or
front.
barricade.
Yeah, something.
I agree with that.
So-
And I agree with there should be snow
That's-
removal, and we all need it. I mean,
That's
not
their
just me,
concerns.
not you,
Yeah, but
all
that's
of
their
us.
concern. Without the barricades there, there's gonna be problems, and that's the message that the supervisor gave me and the engineer.
I understand that, and
that's-
I think I pointed out that
Yeah.
it's the same slope as what's there right now. So being a little bit further down, I don't see what
No,
the,
that drops off considerably once you start to get a little further down.
if it was leveled out,
No more.
there would be no more of a slope than what is existing right now, not at all.
You mean where the barricades are is the
Where
same
the
slope
barricade,
as the
where the
middle of the hill?
road is leading up to the barricades, that slope further down,
Is the same in
it
front of your
would be the
driveway?
same, no, not on my driveway.
Yeah.
Just at 20 feet from where it is now, which would be the entire width of my house, it would be the same slope. At my driveway is where it starts dropping down.
Right. So by putting the barricades to accommodate you getting into your driveway, it still can't be plowed successfully. If
It would be the same situation it is now, but 20 feet down.
much cheaper.
Let's do this.
20 feet further at the same slope.
Let's do this.
Same
Right
way.
now, there's no way we can fund this year. You're a couple doors down from Pat. If something changes, Pat will let you know. If something occurs where there's a lot more money available, there is different ways we're doing things, as far, there's a new way we can put barricades up, this, that, the other thing, the safety factors dealt with. It's not something we can do this year. And I can't commit. I said, I did make a statement, I would love to see it done. But I cannot commit to tell you that we will do it, because issues may change. And for me to say we will do it, things could get worse there. Things could get worse on the slope with all the storms and whatnot we've been having over the last couple of years. We don't know. But right now, the village can't afford to do that. So if you want to come back, please, you want to keep it on the table, I have no problem. When we redo our budgets, if the money's there and we're able to, and the safety factors changed, that's cool. But as of right now, we're not able to do it.
Can I get a copy of that, engineer?
We sure can. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Suzie, I appreciate it. We'll move on to new business, the approval of the minutes as written in the regular meeting, August 5th, 2013. Can I get a motion to approve minutes? Mr. Brown, do I have a second?
There's one adjustment that I brought up to people's attention before on a vote. So other than that change,
What's the change?
there was a change on the third page.
Okay.
There was a motion by trustee Mellon to approve the request for the treasurer to attend the NICOM training in Saratoga Springs from 9/9 to 9/12 at an approximate cost of $1,500. Mayor Flynn seconded the motion on a vote, 2 ayes, 3 nays, and it listed you as the nay vote. So I just wanted to make that change.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that? That change?
Should be DeSalvo, Brown, Murphy.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes with the single change?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Charlie, I'm gonna let you go ahead with the next 3, which is the next 2, plus your new member.
Let's start with the good news, the new member, Chief Rush. Rather, the board has recommended James DeSalvo as a new member of the fire department.
Okay, I'm going to work shortly.
I would like to make the motion that we accept that nomination to the fire company.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mellon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention? Moved.
Okay.
You got the next two, John?
Okay, for the Orange County Volunteer Firemen's Association Parade, the original application was submitted some time ago, but there are some clarifications that the fire company does require use of the pavilion, large baseball field, basketball court, and bathrooms. So I wanted to bring that to your attention as an addendum to that application. And more importantly, there needs to be a one-day beer permit. The necessary liability insurance has been secured, but we do need to acknowledge that that is going to be the use of the property. There will be double snow fencing to prevent any underage drinking. It will be a confined area where the beer is. And there's no cost to the firemen on that beer.
Do you have a copy of the insurance?
Yeah, it was submitted with the original application.
That covers the beer?
Covers everything.
Okay.
Well, we had to get all that, so we just
Fantastic.
want to make it right, so.
It's a beautiful thing. Okay.
And then last, I'd like to make the motion that we amend the original application to cover these additions.
I have a motion on the floor to amend the original application to cover these additions. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Trustee Salvo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So move.
And along those same lines, because of the great festivity that this event is going to be, we would like to request the use of bleachers for the reviewing stand on September 28th. And I believe those bleachers are the property of the village?
Are these the ones up at Roe Park? Did we check with Jimmy to make sure there's no conflict as far as the need?
Oh, we'll check.
Okay, just make sure. Okay, I have a motion on the floor for a request for bleachers to be used for a viewing stand for the parade on 9/28. Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Mr. Brown seconds the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
We may need a separate motion authorizing the mayor to sign the beer application. I will make that motion.
Do I have a second? Really? Thanks. All right, I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I don't recall. So moved. All those opposed? So moved.
Just so the public knows, and I know Barbara was talking about it, there will be wristbands issued for everybody age over 21, right, Jerry?
There's private security, there's
Okay.
wristbands, you can't walk in
It's
without
firemen.
ID.
It's firemen.
Yeah,
Everything's
all right.
covered.
So there's 2 forms ID required then.
Yeah.
So
Firemen.
it won't
Totally.
it won't be too much of a
low-key.
free for all, right?
Yeah.
Seen those events.
The enclosure is strictly for firefighters.
Yeah.
There is no top to that area. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Before I forget, I just want to put this into the new business from Pat Patterson. He's requesting the board approve Gorman Brothers to do the surface treatment needed to get the roads back in shape. The processes are under state bid pricing. This is a step 1 of a 2-step process. And as stated above, we'll be using CHIPS money. but he does need us to approve that.
And there's two other things on the back.
Yep. I see the town trucks. And he also has just a note, while doing this, you will not only see town of Highlands trucks, but also ones from Cornwall and Mount Hope, using other municipalities to help us truck the stone is also a savings to the taxpayer. They're also asking to board approval to approve Pat Patterson using Reclamation Inc. and Ward Pavements to reclaim and pave parking lot number 1 using FEMA monies that were allocated to do this work. These companies have been highly approved by Orange County bids. He would like approval to reclaim and pave Veterans Way using Orange County bids. Again, the vendor will be Reclamation Inc. and Ward Pavement. We need to do these in 3 separate, okay? First, I need a motion to approve Gorman Brothers to do the surface treatment needed to get the roads back in shape under state bid pricing. This is step 1 of the step 2 process, and we'll be using CHIPS money. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Brown. All those in favor? So move. We need a motion to approve using the Reclamation Inc. and Ward Pavements to reclaim the paved parking lot number 1 using FEMA monies that were allocated to do the work. These companies have been highly approved by Orange County bids. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Charlie Murphy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Third, we need approval. I need a motion to approve to reclaim and pave Veterans Way using Orange County bids. Again, the vendor will be Reclamation Inc. and Ward Pavements. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Brown. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. Moving down the agenda. We sure do. Rescheduling Monday meeting, September 2nd meeting. Monday, September 2nd is a holiday. We need to reschedule that. We need to discuss if we, I know there is some conflict with Tuesday. Right off the bat, I just want to double check with Mr. Brown. Are you okay for Tuesday the 3rd for a meeting? You're okay? I am not okay for the Wednesday or Thursday, which means it'll be a Friday meeting. We'd have to go in the following week. So if there is, I would like to keep the meeting on Tuesday. If there is any agenda items that are not, have to be passed on that Tuesday, and any board member that won't be there wants to move it to the following meeting, we will do so. Is that okay with you guys? But we do have to do bills and claims, and I'm not, right now, I don't think anything's on the agenda pressing. So anything that's not pressing, we can move to the following meeting, and it won't be an issue. But we will have a majority, and I just don't want to wait with the possibility of pushing it back another week, 2 weeks. I also, reminder that we may have to have a special meeting for the water. Do I have a motion to change the Monday, September 2nd meeting to September 3rd? Tuesday. Mr. Brown, do I have a second?
You do.
All those in favor? All those opposed? So moved. Approval of consolidated ZBA going from 7 members to 5 members. You have your paperwork in front of you. Are there any questions? Oh, this was different. Are there any questions on the ZBA? No? Do I have a motion to change? We do have a suggestion for them as well. I don't have it in front of me. What was that? What was the suggestion? The suggestion on appointments, right now the appointments go back and forth. The supervisor has an appointment, then when the next vacancy, the mayor has an appointment. Next vacancy, the super has an appointment. As the mayor, it's my feeling that this is a town entity, and the town should be, there are town and village, there are Fort Montgomery and Highland Falls residents on the ZBA. I don't think it needs to go back and forth. If you guys want that, that's up to you. It's a town entity, they can make the decisions to do that. What we are asking is to give us a heads up on who their recommendations are. We don't weigh in heavily on changes into the, rec. Into the rec department, that was consolidated many years ago. Jim handles it for the town. We don't weigh in on a lot of the issues when a member's needed to fill the rec commission. So, same thing, the town can handle it, it's the town entity, but that was a recommendation, separate. We can vote on that and move on the other separately, because I would like to give them an answer on the 5 to 7. All those in favor of moving the ZBA from going to 7 members to 5 members, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Charlie Murphy, can I get a second?
Second.
Bob Mellon, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We can move on that discussion of that suggestion at a later meeting, because we are already long. Travel expenses to attorneys from 8-5 meeting, potential sewer project. You have that in front of you, and I'm going to be taking questions.
Don't want to be?
Going to be taking questions. No questions?
Yeah. Is there any way we can get a copy of the letter of agreement dated July 15th?
We don't have the witness, do we, Gina? Oh, we don't have that with us. You're talking about what we agreed upon the first time? Well, as far as bringing them up here, that letter?
Yeah.
Sorry. It was less. It was like $400, not $1,080. $500.
It was approved?
That was approved.
At a meeting?
That was approved at a meeting. No?
I have no minutes of any approval. I mentioned that he wanted to bring them, and they would only ask for travel expenses.
Right.
There was never a motion made to accept that, or
Oh.
a dollar amount, or anything.
Oh, I thought we did. Okay. No worries. Okay, well, it was discussed.
Not a meeting.
Huh?
It wasn't at a meeting or anything.
Right, it was talked about, it wasn't voted on, I didn't know that. They did ask for travel expenses. They were looking at 5, it cost more. My opinion, and why I have this on the agenda, this is gonna be a huge project for this community, and it's going to bring in a lot of money, as well as open up other doors.